All right, let's jump right into a really fascinating puzzle. Imagine you knew every single physical thing there is to know about the color red. I mean, everything. The exact wavelength of light, how it hits the eye, the specific neurons that fire in the brain, but you'd never actually seen it. The question is, would you really know what red is? We're going to dig into that with one of the most famous thought experiments in all of philosophy. It gets right to the heart of what it even means to know something.
Just let that sink in for a minute. Is it possible to have complete knowledge on one level, the scientific, objective, textbook level, but be completely in the dark on another? That is, the level of actual personal experience. That's the riddle we're tackling today.
And to really get our heads around this, we're not just going to talk abstract ideas. We're going to use a story. It's about a brilliant scientist named Mary, and her really, really strange situation is the perfect way to see this problem up close.
Okay, so let's meet Mary. Picture a neuroscientist who is, without a doubt, the world's leading expert on vision. She knows everything about how our brains see color. But, and this is a huge but, there's a serious catch to her expertise.
See, Mary has lived her entire life, from birth, inside a specially built black and white room. Everything is black, white, or shades of gray. She sees the outside world, but only through a black and white monitor. And from inside this room, she has mastered her field. She has learned every single physical fact there is to learn about color. She's read all the books, all the science. She has total, complete knowledge.
And this isn't just trivia for her. She can trace the whole process, from the moment a photon of a specific wavelength hits your eyeball to the exact chain reaction of neurons firing in your brain, all the way to the muscles in your throat contracting to say the words, "The sky is blue." She knows the complete physical story, A to Z. And here we go. This is the moment the whole experiment hinges on. One day, the door to her room finally opens. She steps outside, and for the very first time, she sees a ripe red tomato. So the question is, after all those years of study, all that perfect knowledge, does she learn anything new?
This simple question, it's the foundation for what's known as the knowledge argument. And trust me, it's not just a fun little brain teaser. It's a serious, serious challenge to a huge idea about how reality itself works.
Now, for most of us, the gut feeling is pretty strong, isn't it? It's like, of course she learned something new. You can read all the books in the world, but nothing can prepare you for the actual experience of seeing red. She finally learns what red is like. And that what it's likeness has a special name in philosophy. It's called qualia. Qualia are those subjective, personal qualities of our experiences. It's not the science of a C-sharp note, but the sound of it. It's not the nerve signals of a burn, but the feeling of pain. The knowledge argument says that what Mary learns is a new fact about the qualia of red. So, let's break it down into a formal argument. It goes like this. Premise 1. Before she leaves that room, Mary knows all the physical facts. We have to assume that's true for the experiment. Premise 2. When she finally sees red, she learns a new fact, what it's like to see red. Now, if both of those things are true, the conclusion is kind of hard to avoid. There must be facts that are not physical. And that, right there, is a massive deal. Because if it's true, if there really are non-physical facts, it suggests that a really dominant worldview, pretty much the foundation of all modern science, might be missing a huge piece of the puzzle.
That worldview is called Physicalism. And the core idea is simple. Everything is physical. The entire universe, from galaxies down to our thoughts, our consciousness, love, everything, is ultimately based on and determined by physical stuff. There's nothing extra floating around. All the facts are, at the end of the day, physical facts.
Here's a good way to think about it. If you made a perfect atom-for-atom copy of the Mona Lisa, it would have to look identical, right? You can't change the painting without changing the physical paint. Well, physicalism says the same thing about us. A perfect physical copy of you would have to have your exact same mind and experiences. But Mary's story throws a wrench in that. It suggests you could know all the physical facts about a brain and still be missing some crucial facts about the mind.
So, if you're a physicalist, you can't just let this stand. You need a defense. The first major comeback is something called the ability hypothesis. And it argues that Mary doesn't actually learn a new fact. Instead, she just gains a new skill. The whole idea here is that we're mixing up two kinds of knowledge. Mary had all the knowing that, all the propositional facts you can write in a book. But what she gained when she walked outside was knowing how, a practical ability.
It's like the philosopher David Lewis said, knowing what it is like, it isn't knowing that, it's knowing how. So seeing red for the first time didn't add a new piece of information about the universe to her brain. No. Instead, it unlocked a new set of mental skills. She can now imagine red. She can remember the experience of red. She can recognize red when she sees it again. Think about it like riding a bike. You can read a physics textbook that explains balance and momentum perfectly, but you don't know how to ride until you actually get on and do it. One is facts, the other is an ability. And here's the kicker. If all Mary gains is a new ability and not a new fact, then that whole argument against physicalism just falls apart. There are no new non-physical facts, and physicalism is safe. The problem is solved.
But hold on. That's not the only defense. There's a second, maybe even more clever way to look at this. This one takes a totally different approach. It actually agrees that Mary learns new knowledge, but it changes what that knowledge is of.
This is called the new knowledge/old fact view. And the idea is that Mary isn't learning about some new non-physical part of reality. No, she's learning about an old physical fact, one she already knew, but she's just coming to know it from a brand new point of view.
How is that possible? Well, through something philosophers call phenomenal concepts. These are special kinds of concepts that you literally cannot form in your mind until you've had the experience they refer to. Before she left that room, Mary simply didn't have the mental tool to grasp the idea of redness from a first-person perspective.
So before she walks out, Mary knows about the experience of seeing red through a scientific concept, like the brain state caused by light at a 650 nanometer wavelength. After she walks out, she knows that exact same physical brain state, but under a new, phenomenal concept. She knows it as the experience that feels like this.
The classic analogy here is the Mark Twain's Samuel Clemens case. Let's say you know that Mark Twain wrote Huckleberry Finn. Later, someone tells you Samuel Clemens wrote Huckleberry Finn. You've definitely learned something new, right? But you haven't learned a new fact about the world. You've just learned a new name for the same guy who did the same thing. The argument is that's exactly what happens to Mary.
So, where does this leave us? Is the Mary's room problem solved? Not even close. Both of these rebuttals are really clever, but they have their own problems and counterarguments. Philosophers are still fiercely debating whether Mary's experience is a genuine crack in the armor of physicalism, or if it's just a clever puzzle that tricks our intuitions.
In the end, what Mary's story really does is force us to stare into the gap between our objective, scientific picture of the brain and our own private, subjective experience of being alive. Because if a complete physical map of the universe still can't explain something as simple as seeing a color, what does that say about the nature of consciousness itself? Is our inner world something more than just neurons firing? That's still one of the biggest and deepest questions there is. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more fascinating videos from Plato's Footnote. Please leave your thoughts and comments for further discussion. Have a great day.